Hello and welcome to Intro to Unit Rate. I am DJ Tay coming at you from Tap Middle School. This is a Math 6 edition. So you may ask, what exactly is unit rate? We just finished learning about ratios, which a ratio is a comparison of two amounts. So what exactly is a unit rate? And I would tell you that's a great question. So before I can get into unit rate, I first need to explain what exactly is a rate. And a rate is a ratio that compares two amounts with different units. For example, 4 tablespoons of salt to 2 cups of sugar. That's a 4 to 2 ratio or rate because tablespoons and cups are two different units. Now, a unit rate is a special type of rate. And what makes it special is that it's a rate where an amount is compared to the number 1. Here's our example using the tablespoons of salt and the cups of sugar. That will become 2 tablespoons of salt to 1 cup of sugar. Notice how the 1 is the second part of this ratio, 2 to 1. And, and in the fractional notation, the 1 is in the denominator. That is very important. All right, so let's try this one together. Vanessa is taking a road trip to Disney World. She drives 600 miles in 8 hours. What was her constant speed? So, this is where proportions are never going away, guys. Not anytime soon, at least. This is where we need to set up a proportion in order to compare these two ratios or these two rates so that we can find a unit rate. So it says Vanessa's taking a road trip to Disney World. She drives 600 miles in 8 hours. What was her constant speed? And that constant speed is asking you for unit rate. So I'm going to first set up, let me get a little eraser there. I'm going to first set up my lines here. Let's see if I can make them just a little bit neater for you. I'm going to set up my lines, set up so that I can have my proportion set up there. All right. And I know that she can drive 600 miles in 8 hours, but unit rate, when I want to know one of something, it forces me to ask, well, I know 600 miles in 8 hours. Well, how many miles would Vanessa drive in 1 hour? So this is what we want to find 1 hour here. So if hours is going to be me finding one of it, that means that the miles are in my numerator. So I have to compare miles to miles and hours to hours. So I don't know how many miles she made in 1 hour, how many she drove, right? But according to the problem, I know that she drove 600 miles in 8 hours. So I have a question mark here, but you guys know how to use variables now, don't you? So I am going to erase my question mark because we're not little kids anymore. And I am going to go ahead and use a variable here. So let's see, what do we want to use our variable for? We can use our variable, you know what? Let's go ahead and I'm going to use M for the missing miles, okay? So our variable of M here. All right, so the first thing we are going to do, I don't know the miles here, so I am going to point my arrow to what I don't know yet and point my second arrow in the same direction. And I am asking myself, how am I going from 8 down to 1 hour? 8 hours down to 1 hour, right? So this means that I am dividing by 8 here, which means I need to also divide by 8 up here. So this is where a calculator comes super in handy. So you will put into your calculator 600 divided by 8, and you will get that M equals 75. M equals 75. Okay, so now that I know that M equals 75, I have to consider what my unit rate sentence is. So to answer the question, what was her constant speed? Her speed was 75 miles per hour. That per means for one or for every hour. So for every hour that she drove about 75 miles in that hour. So you see the sign here, speed limit 10. She definitely was not on a road with only a speed limit of 10. Now I want you to try one on your own. This is for a traffic jam, and it says a car stuck in traffic travels only 20 miles in 4 hours. What is the unit rate of the car's speed? So remember, you need to set up your proportion so that you can solve this problem. Okay, so now that I've given you some time to solve this problem on your own, I'm going to show you how you should have, or you probably already did, solve this problem. So we need to set up a proportion. And I see that this car stuck in traffic traveled 20 miles in 4 hours. Well, asking for one of something, I want to know if it went 20 miles in 4 hours, how many miles did it go in 1 hour? So this means that at the top here in the numerator, I have miles. So I am comparing again miles to miles and hours to hours. So I am going to use the M for my variable for what we're going to solve. And in our problem, it said 20 miles for 4 hours. So I'm filling in that rate that they already gave me so that we can solve for the missing unit rate. So first, I'm going to point my first arrow to what I do not yet know, and my second arrow in the same direction. And I can't compare that 20 to M. So I'm going to look down here. And I know I can go from 4 hours down to 1 hour by dividing by 4. So if I divided by 4 down there, I need to divide by 4 up here. So 20 divided by 4 means that M, our missing number, equals 5. So this means unit rate wise, we are comparing 5 miles to 1 hour. So her unit rate is 5 miles per hour. If you got that right, give yourself a pat on the back. If you did not, I hope you paid attention to the work I showed so that you can do the same thing when it's your turn again. Here's another one we're going to try together. All right, guys, there is a sale on Takis. The cost is $10 for 5 bags. Carlin's mom will only buy 1 bag. How much will 1 bag cost? And guys, this is real world because you go into the store and you see sales all the time. So this is a perfect example of something your parents have to think through when they're at the store. They just may not remember how to set it up as a unit rate problem proportion. So a proportion is exactly how we're going to start. We're going to draw our lines, our equal sign. And I know how much 5 bags cost. That's $10, right? But I want to know how much does 1 bag cost. So I am going to compare the money to the bags. And our original problem told us that it was $10 for 5 of those bags. So I'm going to use D for dollars for our missing number to use as our variable. And I'm going to point my first arrow to what I don't know yet, my second arrow in the same direction. I can't compare D and 10, but I can compare how I'm going from 5 bags down to 1 bag, and that is because I divide by 5. So if I divide by 5 down here, I need to also divide by 5 up here. So now I'm just solving this. $10 divided by 5 equals what? Well, we are saying that D equals $2. So that means that the cost is $2 per bag of Takis. It's your turn now. Night at the museum. A 7-pack of museum tickets costs $38.50. That should be a dollar sign, right? What is the cost per ticket? What is the cost per ticket? So I'm going to give you a little bit. I'm going to give you some time to go ahead, set this problem up on your sheet of paper or on your screen if you have that ability, and you are going to solve this problem for what is the cost per ticket. All right, so I'm going to set this up as a proportion so that I can show you how I would have solved it. I know how much 7 tickets cost, but I want to know the price of 1 ticket. So I'm comparing the price to the 1 ticket. So that means over here, I am putting my price, $38.50, and that was for 7 tickets. I am going to use, let's say, the D for dollars again as our variable. So I'm going to point my first arrow to what I am solving for. I don't know that variable, what it stands for yet. Point my second arrow in the same direction. And I'm asking, how am I going from 7 tickets down to 1 ticket? Well, that means I had to divide by 7. So up here, I'm also going to divide by 7 because whatever I do to one part of my ratio in my proportion, I must do to the other part of my proportion. So let's grab our calculators and pop into the calculator $38.50 divided by 7. And we get in a calculator that D equals 5.5. But we know that this is money, that D is representing money. So this means that it's $5.50. So our unit rate, our unit price is $5.50 per ticket. If you got that answer right, give yourself a kudos. All right, let's try this one together. We're talking about a class split here at TAP. Dr. Shannon has 168 students in 8 classes. How many students does he have per class? Remember to follow along. This helps you learn. All right, so we're going to start off with a proportion. So I know Dr. Shannon has 168 students in 8 classes. Well, I want to know about how many students does he have in one class. So I have to compare classes to classes, and up here is going to be our student comparison. So in my original problem, I know that the information in our word problem gives us that he had 168 students in 8 of his classes. And we want to know how many students are in one of his classes. So I'm going to use S for students. And I am going to point my first arrow in the direction of what I do not yet know, and point my second arrow in the same direction. And I'm going from 8 classes down to 1 class by dividing by 8. You may have noticed a pattern by now. We're in each time we're going down to 1. So we're dividing by whatever that number was in the denominator. It's pretty simple. All right, so if I divide it by 8 down there, that means up here I need to also divide by 8. So now I'm going to pop into my calculator 168 divided by 8, and it's going to give me that S equals 21. So that means that there are 21 students per class. Again, remember that word per. 21 students in every class, in each class, in every one class. That's what per is telling us. Okay, so now I have one that I want you to try on your own. Remember that reading is fundamental. And in this problem, there are 1,000 pages in 4 books. How many pages are in each book? I'm going to give you just a little bit to try to solve this on your own. Hey, not try, you're going to do it because I believe in you. Let me give you some time. Okay, now that you're all done, I'm going to show you how I know we both solve this one. So, of course, it starts off with a proportion setup, setting 2 ratios, or in this case, rates equal to each other. And I see in the problem that there are 1,000 pages in 4 books. Well, I want to know how many pages are in one book. One book. So this up here is going to be for my pages. So in order to find that out, I'm going to use P for pages. And I have to put in my 1,000 pages and compare that to 4 books. So now I'm going to point my first arrow to what I do not yet know, my second arrow in the same direction. I am going from 4 books down to 1 book by dividing by 4. So that means up here I'm also going to divide by 4. And some of you might have done this quickly in your head, but just in case, you can toss in your calculator 1,000 divided by 4. And that means that P for pages equals 250. So we are saying that there are 250 pages per book. Very good, guys. All right. I have a challenge for you. A challenge for you. This is something that your parents, your granny, your uncle, your aunties, your cousins, your older siblings, whoever have to, this is what we have to go through when we go shopping and we see certain deals. We want to know which is the best deal because we don't want to waste our money, not at all. So let's say that we are at the movie theater and they have a small for $3.60. It's only 12 ounces. They have a medium for $5 and it's 20 ounces. And then they have a large for $6.40 and it is 32 ounces. Well, we need to find the unit rate of each of these popcorn sizes. That's the cost per ounce in order to see which one is the best deal, because whichever one costs the least amount per ounce is what I'm going for. All right, so let me give you some time to tackle this challenge, to conquer it. I know you have it. You can do it. And then we'll come back and see what your answer, what you got for your answers, which is the best deal. I believe in you. Keep trying. All right. So you should have gotten that a small at $3.60 for 12 ounces costs 30 cents an ounce, and a medium at $5 for 20 ounces costs 25 cents an ounce, and a large at $6.40 for 32 ounces costs 20 cents an ounce. So you know that a large popcorn is the best deal. You'll be spending the least amount per ounce, which means that me and my buddies that went to the movies with me, we can split a large popcorn. I hope this was a great intro challenge to unit rate, and we can't wait to learn more together.